Hussein of Jordan seems to have slammed the door for now on President Reagan's diplomatic efforts in the Middle East. He told the New York Times that the U.S. has no principles and is so one-sidedly pro-Israel that it can no longer serve as a Middle East broker. Why the unusually harsh criticism at this time? We'll ask King Hussein, who'll be with us from Amman, Jordan. King Hussein, thank you very much for being with us on Face the Nation this morning. In an interview you gave this week to the New York Times, you said that the United States is unprincipled, that we've lost our credibility, and that the United States can no longer act as an honest broker in the Mideast. What made you decide to lash out so bitterly at this point in time against the Reagan administration?
To begin with, I did not lash out against the Reagan administration as such. I lashed out, if that is the right expression to use, against an evolving situation in the United States over many years. I don't think that anyone could claim to be more of a friend in this area to the United States or more of a believer in the fact that, as far as we saw it, we had principles that we were proud to uphold and ideals that we strove to uphold in this world, and the cause of friendship between us. But unfortunately, we have seen an erosion of the United States position in regard to the major issue in this area, the cause of instability in it, root cause of instability, the Arab-Israeli issue, over the years. I suggest that the United States position has changed, certainly in the eyes of all in this area, on the Arab side, and this is to my very deep regret.
Could you explain that a little
further? It has done so. Okay, I will. The situation is not one that I could attribute to the administration. I certainly have the highest respect for the president. I personally get along with him very, very well. I respect him as a man. I respect him as a man of principle, as a man of courage. In fact, his initiative was a courageous one, and I've said that. But it seems that on the American scene, there are other considerations and there are other pressures. And therefore, there is no clear policy. There is not the ability to maintain a clear line. Let's take the question of settlements. We had a draft resolution at the Security Council. It was shot down by an American veto. Settlements in the occupied territories is a very clear issue. These settlements are illegal.
Now, if Prime Minister Shamir of Israel announced today that he would freeze the building of settlements, would you then agree to talk to the Israelis? Would you go to Israel? Would you go to a third country and open negotiations?
The settlement stopping is not all that we are seeking. It is something that must happen. But on the other hand, the Israeli attitude, as far as I am concerned, is that what is yours is mine, and we'll negotiate unconditionally about everything else. The principle is the matter. The equation as a whole is total withdrawal for total peace of occupied territories.
Have you decided...
When they say that this territory is theirs, then there is nothing that we can do. There's nothing to talk about.
Have you decided not to negotiate with the Israelis? It sounds as though you are not willing right now to say, the settlements stop, I'll talk to them.
Settlement stop, and that is all. What about the Palestinians, for example? We are in a position where we need the Palestinians to be a party to any progress towards a solution. The Palestinian problem is a problem that we're trying to deal with. And we in Jordan are trying our very best to put our act together to cooperate, Jordanians and Palestinians who face the same problems, the same challenges, the same threats, and to have the objective of establishing peace in this area. Yet the Israelis refuse to give these Palestinians a chance to move, to express themselves.
You say that you have great admiration for Ronald Reagan, and you complained that he would do nothing in an election year, and yet he went before an American Jewish audience and appealed for the arms sales for your country before this group in an election year, and the very next day you came out and said that the United States was unprincipled and basically attacked his policies. Why did you choose to do that the very next day after he did what he considered a politically courageous move?
This is not a response to any statement that the president might have made. But speaking of principles, the very issue of Jerusalem and the removal of the capital or the establishment of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel in this period of time, I question our American friends throughout the United States. Is this an issue based on principle, or is it just an election ploy?
But it's not
This
President
is the kind
Reagan.
of situation that we are... No, I'm not talking about President Reagan, and I did not attack President Reagan.
Well, now, you know, you've given this interview, and I assume from what you're saying that you are hoping to influence American public opinion, but it seems, at least in Congress, that what you've done is producing a backlash, that it's backfiring on you, and that Congress may not give you the arms sales because of the interview you gave to the New York Times.
I made it very clear before, when this whole issue was discussed, of our legitimate needs for our own self-defense, that if this issue was to become a sordid one, where the dignity of my country was in jeopardy, then thank you very much. We don't need the arms. We need them very, very badly, but not at this kind of price. And we have been pulled about sufficiently enough in this way that if the price is really for the dignity of Jordan to be affected, then it's too big a price for us to pay in this way.
Well, we also hear that the interview has so angered the administration that it may not even fight for the arms sales.
Well, prior to my interview, our assessment was that it didn't have much of a chance in any event because of the very strong influences of Israel and the Israeli lobby in Washington.
Does what will Jordan do now? Would you go now to the Soviet Union for arms, assuming it does fail?
As far as our legitimate needs to defend ourselves, if you turn us down, we are not going to remain exposed to danger. We will look anywhere, and wherever we can get our needs, we'll try to secure them.
Including possibly the Soviet Union.
Well, if that ever happens, if we ever have to go that far, I hope that it will be clear that we are doing it because of an attitude that we face in Washington. And I hope that, morally speaking, Washington will realize that it will not have any right to ask us why we got arms from anywhere else in the future, based on what position we might see develop and evolve in the near future.
Let me ask you something. Given the reaction and the way your comments have been interpreted in Washington, do you have any regrets about what you told the New York Times?
No, I believe I was frank, honest, and candid. I've been accused of being too polite at times. I don't think I was impolite, I was factual. And if that is something to regret, I don't know why I should regret it. I believe that, let's say, wait another year, with things deteriorating as they are, and there isn't much hope for any of us in this area, and the United States loses a lot. It was a time that requires us to be frank and open with our friends, and I did just that.
Is it true that the United States, at this moment in time, has no role in the Middle East at this point?
The choice is that of the United States. It has always been the choice of the United States as to whether it wants to exercise a role or not. It can, obviously, more than any in the world, but not as an ally of Israel, not as a mediator, but as a superpower that adheres to principles and respects its commitments. Then there is a whole area where the United States can play a very, very major role in helping all move towards the establishment of peace in this area.
I'm going to ask you a very tough question, and I hope you'll be very candid with us.
Sure.
How confident are you that if Syria does make a move against your country, whether it's an actual invasion or some kind of terrorist threat, that the United States would fully, 100% back you up?
We've never asked the United States to come and fight our battles, or anyone in the world. But we have sought to enhance our capabilities to defend ourselves against all threats. And I believe that this country and the people of it, of Jordan, have enough guts to stand up and do their best in the face of any threat.
So you wouldn't count
however,
on...
We have a problem. We have a problem.
The New York Times reporter who interviewed you described you as being in a state of political despair. Are you that discouraged about the situation?
I'm discouraged in many respects. I'm particularly discouraged over one very important area. I believe that the Palestinians, the silent majority, is not silent anymore. The body that matters is in the occupied territories, in the West Bank and in Gaza. I'm very discouraged with the determination by Israel and the lack of ability, obviously, by others to influence Israel to permit these people to express themselves. This is very vital if we are to move towards addressing the problem squarely. And I believe I find an identity of interest, apparently, between two extremes, Israelis on the one hand, and those who don't want a solution on the Arab side in preventing Palestinians from voicing their opinions or expressing themselves. And this is a very, very distressing situation that we do face.
King Hussein, we're running out of time. One last fast question. Do you want to negotiate with the Israelis?
I want certainly to make my fullest contribution to the establishment of peace. I realize we have to address that through a negotiation at some stage, but we want the kind of conditions, the foundations on which we can conduct a meaningful negotiation.
But would you like to negotiate with them? Do you want to? Is that your goal? I know we're running out of time.
Well, obviously we want a solution to the problem, and we already realize Israel is there. We accept that, but we want our rights, and we want a basis for negotiations, and we can't find it so far.
Your Majesty, thank you very much for being with us this morning. And we will be right back with some editorial comments. Here are some editorials on King Hussein's bitter attack on U.S. policy in the Middle East. Le Monde in Paris calls the Hussein statements the biggest setback yet for Mr. Reagan's presidency. American policy in the area has shown the total confusion and incredible inconstancy of leaders in Washington. The New York Daily News says that Hussein has finally buried the Camp David Accords and that Reagan should pull the plug now. No more arms for Jordan until it comes off the fence. The Los Angeles Times says there has been no major change in our policies and concludes that Hussein's stance insulates him for now from the slings and arrows and worse of his radical Arab enemies. Self-interest is the most powerful motivating force. Richard Strauss of the Middle East Policy Survey says Americans should understand Hussein's difficult position.
What we're asking him to do is to act in the short term in a way that will cause him all sorts of problems with the radical Arabs and also problems within his kingdom. And it's a very risky venture.
Wolf Blitzer of the Jerusalem Post is critical.
King Hussein and other moderate Arabs are still waiting for the United States to do their dirty work for them. They want the United States to very, very strongly lean on Israel, to pressure Israel into making unilateral concessions. They're refusing to sit down right now and negotiate with Israel around a bargaining table.
Cartoonist Steve Kelly of the San Diego Union imagines a news conference where the President and Secretary of State announce a major change in Middle East policy. I'm Leslie Stahl. Have a good week.